All right, so we've smoked the credit card, parts are on the way. Today we're just going to get started working on what we can do in the meantime of waiting on parts. There is a list of things we can get done today, and that's what we're going to get into. So let's get this old girl ready for 6 Smokies.
I'd say it's a nut job.
On the list of things we're going to have to get done today is, as you can see, there's tons of wires just laying in the floorboard. Maybe you can see if my hand wasn't causing it to focus wrong. There's a video you can go back and watch. We put a complete wiring harness in this car because pretty much nothing worked on it. It's been a track car. And I put a complete wiring harness in this car, so now legit everything on this car is working except for the front turn signals, because I haven't put the buckets for the lights in yet because it's fiberglass bumper, so I got to cut for it. And the only other thing that's not working is the windshield wipers, and that's because the whole mechanism, everything's gone. So we're not going to do windshield wipers. We're going to Rain-X the windshield and hope for the best. So we got to clean the wiring up was the point of that. The brake switch that I put in here, I put a aftermarket brake switch on it and it adjusts. It's not exactly adjusted right, so if you just ease off the brake pedal, the brake lights actually stay on. You got to take your foot and pull up just a little bit. Not a big deal, that's an adjustment. We can take care of that. I think first thing on my list though is we're going to crack into the trunk. We're going to pop the fuel cell out and put our new Evil Energy fuel cell in, and pull this fuel pump off and go through it and try to fix that issue. I think most of the fuel has drained out of this. We're just going to check and see. Kind of excited to get this new fuel cell in. It's needed that for a while. And yes, you still have to have keys. Because streetcar shit. Got to really clean this trunk out. It's just been sitting with leaves and all kind of junk in it, and get everything hooked up. I don't even remember what some of this stuff is, but we got to get everything hooked up and get our new fuel cell in. There's a couple places in the floor back here I need to patch because, well, I did stuff. And I need to undid stuff. So we may just take care of all that. But the fuel cell definitely, no, I never actually measured to make sure it fit. I'm sure it will. So as you can see, the trunk's nasty. Don't worry about that. I've got to fix 2 places in the floor pan back here, and here that I made because I relocated the shocks. It made the car work a whole lot better. Shocks more straight up and down. Then where I was racing changed the rules and made me move the shocks back. So then I just have 2 random holes in the floor. I think I'm going to move the shocks back here, but I'm going to build a box that kicks out and comes down so they're not exposed to the floor, and it'll keep exhaust and stuff from coming up through the floor. Also, one of the only places there's rust in this car is in this rear trunk pan back here, and it's right around this back lip. You can see it right there. So I may just go ahead and try to fix that too, just to burn some time. Get this rubber mat out, get this fuel cell out, and we may have to build us take this piece of sheet metal and put right up in there just to block that off, because technically I think it's supposed to have it, although we've never had it. Have I mentioned how heartbroken I am that my Optima battery finally died? Man, after 6 years with this battery, she finally gave up the ghost. So now I've got the battery out of my ramp truck in here. So I guess I'm going to start back here by pulling this mat out. And I don't remember if I glued this down. It appears that I did put some glue on this. That was smart. It's gonna make a mess coming out of here. Just kick that outside, because that's not going back in here. Yeah, we've got some stuff to work on. We definitely got some stuff to work on. Better the cables over out of the way. Razor blade. So apparently the rust in the trunk pan has spread a little bit, and has some rust right up there in front of the cell now, along with this rust that was in this corner I showed you. I'm debating on whether I just want to cut the whole trunk pan out of this thing and put a new trunk pan in. I have like 12 days to 6 Smokies. Would it be a complete, just backwards butch job to take a piece of sheet metal, cut it the correct size, and put a few tacks or something in it to hold it in place, just to keep the exhaust out of the car till after 6 Smokies, and then when I come home from 6 Smokies, cut this whole trunk pan out and replace it with a new trunk pan? Because to my knowledge, I'll look in a little bit, but to my knowledge, there's no rust in the floor pans or the kickboard or nothing in the front. All the rust is right here, and it mainly does to the fact that there's no seals or nothing in this trunk lid. So I'm going to replace this whole trunk floor. I'm just trying to decide if I have the time to do it before 6 Smokies, or if I should just band-aid this with something. Freaking license plates, I don't care. Something until after 6 Smokies. And then after 6 Smokies, come back and put an entire floor pan in this thing. I think I'm going to go ahead and get this fuel cell and everything out of here. Test fit the other one. See how much space it takes up. And then make a decision from there. Kind of wonder if any of this shit actually will pass tech. We may just have to fudge a little bit and tell them this is like, oh yeah, she runs like 8.0s, and then try to sandbag till the last day, and then you just let it all hang out, and they get pissed off at you and tell you can't count that one. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Although that would be kind of fun. Just going to drain what fuel is left in here into a container. There may not be none left in it. Whatever's left, I'm just going to drain into a container so I can get this fuel cell out. Actually, there's more than I thought. I don't know what we're going to do with this fuel cell. We may take this fuel cell and move it over to that 47 and give it a fuel system for a little while. Honestly, because of NHRA tech, I'll probably have to put a real vent on here instead of, I don't know if you can see that or not, but I always just ran a rag with a zip tie around it for a vent. I'm telling you the car was sketchy is what I'm telling you, but it's okay. It's okay. The car was a little sketchy on the safety side, but it's okay. The fact that fuel cell can move that much is probably a problem too. Apparently it was kind of wiggly because one of the bolts had fallen out. Maybe we should use lock washers or something. Oh, this time. All right, I got that out. Let me swing this around a little bit. That out. Now I'm going to pop off the fuel line. And we'll just pull this bad boy out of here, right? There we go. A nice 5-gallon fuel cell. That'll work great for the 47, I think. Pretty sure this is an Evil Energy cell too. Now I'd like to find a fuel sending unit, or not sending unit, but a fuel gauge that would work with this. I've never had a fuel gauge on a fuel cell before, but since it's going to be on a drag and drive, that sounds like a good idea to have. All right. So, looks like it'll fit in there just fine. We'll have to make a bracket or two so it can set level. But as far as sitting in there, it's like it'll sit fine right in there like that. Leave me enough room. Yeah. 15 gallons of fuel. 15 gallons of fuel. That should be enough. I mean, worst case, this thing gets 5 miles a gallon. That's what, 75 miles? Something like that. So, yeah, I'm good with that. Okay, so something I have never done is wired up a sending unit to a fuel cell. But this has one in it, and it has this green and this yellow wire. Now, per Evil Energy, that is a 0 to 90 ohm sending unit. So I went out and picked up a 0 to 90 ohm fuel gauge at the local parts store. So in theory, this fuel gauge should work with this sending unit. Now, I've never tried to wire a fuel gauge to a fuel cell before, so this is going to be a first for me. What I've got to dig into and figure out is this has a positive, a negative, and a sending unit wire. It has 3 wires right here, which is, I mean, self-explanatory, right? Ignition, ground, and comes back to the sending unit. That's pretty self-explanatory. That brings me to the wires out of the tank. There's a green and a yellow. One of those should be ground, correct? And one of those should be the actual, like, sending unit wire. So I need to figure out which is which. Now, my theory is, my first thought was just hook them up one way, and if it don't work, hook it up the other way. My theory is that I may fry something in the sending unit. I mean, I don't know if it works that way or not. So, how am I going to do this? I got to come up with something. Because I looked online. What I should do is call Evil Energy because their customer service is amazing. But instead, I done what most of the world will do and Google it. Nothing on Google shows a green and yellow wire that I could find. Okay, I was able to get you here. Hopefully you can see that. Let me reach down in here real quick. Grab a hold of the sending unit with something, because there's no fuel in it.
Now, hopefully you can see that I don't have a wire hooked up yet. Hang on. Alright, we have a working sending unit. If you can see that. Sorry, that was stupid blurry. I was trying to hold a hot wire on the battery, manipulate the sending unit up and down, and hold the phone to record that all at the same time. Point is, we have a working sending unit. I laid everything together back here to figure out which one done what. And as I said, I've never wired a sending unit up in a fuel cell before, but I was having a little trouble figuring out what was what. The green and the yellow actually on the sending unit side, on the tank side. I was having trouble figuring that out. So I just took a shot in the dark, figured green is the color of grass, so that must mean ground, and yellow is the color of the sun, so that must mean the power wire. Sounds stupid. Hell, it worked. And now we know what wire does what on that. So now I can put this inside the car, and now I have a working fuel gauge, which will come in handy considering 6 Smokies is just under 1,000 miles, I think. So that's going to come in handy having a working fuel gauge. I mean, I'm sure we could just stop whenever because 468, I think is what we are. 468 cubic inch Ford FE with 2 750 double pumpers. I'm sure it's probably going to get like 20 miles to the gallon and we won't have any problem with fuel at all. So now we'll have a working fuel gauge. I just need to find a place to put this inside the car, and I'm not even going to worry about wiring up the little lamp on it because if I can get by with it, I'm not doing any night driving it anyway. All right, so we know where the fuel cell's going. It's not bolted down yet, but it's going to be. We got all of our wiring figured out, and now we have, let's see if I can zoom in from here. Now we have right there in the center, that is a working fuel gauge. So now we have oil pressure all the way over here on the right, fuel, and then temperature. It's the little things, right? So now we have a working fuel gauge, so we know how quickly that sucks the fuel tank dry. I'm not sure I want to know the answer to that question. Okay, so it's a new day, and I've been spending way too much time thinking about this trunk floor and the rust that's in it and what to do about it and blah, blah, blah. End of the day, I came up with a plan that's probably not the best idea, but out of the scenarios that I've thought about, it's the best one that I could come up with. I want this car to be around for a while, so I've made a decision that I'm just going to replace the entire trunk pan in this thing and buy a pan, weld it in, and be done with it. But there's not really time before 6 Smokies, because I think I'm down to 9 days now, something along those lines, to cut this out, order a pan, get a pan here, weld a pan in, do all the work, blah, blah, blah. So my other alternative was to put a couple patches in and wait till they get here. But personally, I feel like I'm doing the job twice if I just patch the spots in it and wait on a new pan to get here. So this is the decision that has been made, for better or worse. What I'm going to do is I've bought some mat here that I'll show you in just a second. Let me set this fuel cell out. I've bought some like cheap carpet mat stuff. This stuff is actually made by Garage Guard. You can buy it at local auto parts stores. It's a really thin
carpet, but it's made with like an oil dry system. It has this rubbery substance on the back here, and it's made to actually go down in a garage floor to keep you from staining your floors and all. But we're going to use it for carpet because it is like a carpet. And I'm just going to carpet this trunk with this and basically lay this over the top of all the spots in the trunk floor. It'll make the trunk floor look good, cover up all the damage, and then when we get home from 6 Smokies, we can cut the pan out and put a whole new pan in it and just replace the whole thing and only do the job once. I think that is the best use of my time, considering we are running out of time. So let me get to cleaning this out, and we're going to church up a trunk floor real quick. I also made a bit of a bonehead error somehow. I hadn't quite figured out how I'd done it yet. Still a little confused by what happened. I ordered my parts, and I have my default set as the McDougal, Georgia store because it's the one closest to me. And generally speaking, if I order from the McDougal store, it's not a golden rule, but generally speaking, I have everything the next day, 2 days, worst possible case. So I put in an order for parts somehow. Still don't understand exactly what happened. My store got changed, and I ordered everything from Sparks, Nevada. So now my parts are not going to be here till Monday. So I'm scrambling to try to get all this stuff like this done, just to make some forward progress while I wait on my other parts to get here. Because I know somebody's going to be like, man, why are you even fooling with that? Worry about the other stuff that matters. Well, I don't have the parts for the stuff that actually matters. So I've got to do what I got to do. I think this is going to help a lot. I think what I'm going to do is use this first roll right down the center like that. Take the second roll and just do the sides out here. And we'll make this thing look pretty respectable and clean. We're just going to make this thing as presentable and as decent as we can make it with what we have to work with. So let me make a couple of small relief cuts here, and then we'll come back and lay the sail over in here, figure out where we need to cut all that out. And I'm going to say one more time, because somebody's going to be like, I wouldn't waste my time with that. And listen, at this point, we're doing busy work waiting on parts. And I've started cleaning up some of the wiring. I've got that stuff partially cleaned up. I know I'm going to have to run a new wire for my sending unit. So I'm just kind of churching everything up a little bit while I'm here, and then we'll move on. I'm also going to have to put me a piece of metal up there for a brake so it'll pass tech as well. Get up in there. How far up do you go? All right. Looks like that might cover decent. I've got this in there, just like it needs to be. Keep in mind, guys, when I do stuff like this, I'm in no way suggesting that you do yours like this. I'm in no way even saying that this is the best way to do it.
I'm just saying that in the short time period I have, I think this is the best course of action for me. Okay, nothing's bolted down yet, but I gotta say, for something that's kind of thrown together, that makes the trunk look a lot more presentable. Doesn't look near as bad. And I'm gonna take some spray glue and spot glue this down. Maybe that'll keep any exhaust fumes or anything from coming up inside the trunk. Although, if trunk is sealed from the cargo or the cargo department, I can't talk. Although, if the trunk is sealed from the passenger compartment, I don't guess we'd have to worry about fumes coming in anyway. I've got a whole nother half a piece hanging here to do those little pieces right up through there, so that in theory the entire trunk floor is now carpeted. That should be okay. That should work out just fine. I can't think of any reason why the way we're doing this is going to be a problem. I mean, by the end of a 7-day drag and drive, throwing tools, I don't think I'm going to carry a trailer. Throwing tools and parts and stuff in and out of this trunk, there's a very good chance that this carpet will be destroyed and it was all for nothing anyway, but by God, it makes me feel better at the moment. So up here, since I had put an entirely new wiring harness in the car, there's a bunch of random wires laying around, but I did have a whole mess of wires hanging down from under the column or under the dash. All those is tucked up, zip tied out of the way. This wire right here, I have to run to the other side of the car. These 3 or 4 wires right here, they're for things that I won't be using. Originally, the idea was just to clip them, but I think I'm going to roll them up and tuck them behind the kick panel there in case you ever want to use them for something else. They are wires like one is for a third brake light. I don't remember which one's which. One's third brake light. One of them's for like air conditioning. And I think a power antenna wire's in there. There's a couple things that we're just not using. Over here, I still got to zip tie these wires and tuck them back up and under there. These are wires that I connected to make our fuel gauge that we have right here now. We have a working fuel gauge. It is right there in the center. So have wires for that. There's also a wire in there that goes up to my button for my line lock. So there's a few little things in here to clean up. But we have everything on here working, including the AM radio, which, for what that's worth, I mean, I don't have an antenna on the car anymore, but it works. So we do have everything in here working, which is kind of cool. One of the other things you'll see that is kind of cool on this car, I'll be able to see them there, is original keys to the car. We have everything working with the original key. The original trunk key still opens the trunk. The original switch key still starts the car and locks and unlocks the doors. So we have all the original, straight from Ford keys for this thing, which is kind of cool. Just, I mean, it's not something you need on a race car, but, you know, it's kind of cool. We're trying to make it really straddle that line between race car and street car, which you're fighting a battle with that anyway. Y'all know the name of the car's Legacy. It's painted right on the side, but a buddy of mine had one of these made. These are actually cattle tags that come from out Texas, I think, somewhere out in Texas somewhere. I think he ordered these, and these are real cattle tags that they stamp out there. If you don't know what a cattle tag is, you can look it up, but basically it's a tag they put on the ear, and they generally have numbers or something on them, just to designate the cow. He had one made with Legacy stamped on it, which is kind of cool. So we keep it on the key ring with kind of just one of those little cool things. Okay. Here we go. This is kind of what I got in mind. Fuel cells mounted. Trunk has something similar to carpet in it. I had started trimming and fitting all this stuff real nice, and then them two pieces on the side, I kind of just threw them up there because I kind of realized, what's the point? All of it's got to come back out anyway when I put a new trunk pan in it. So, but right now, that makes the trunk floor look a million times better. Fuel cell in there looks good and clean. Once you pack tools and stuff in here, you'll never know it. I gotta finish up my battery box, and I've got to run a ground wire over from the tank over to the battery. And then, I think the trunk part will be done, all except for my kill switch. I'm going to put in here. I'm going to put a battery disconnect back here. But everything else is pretty much done in here now, and that's the way the fuel cell is going to live. That will button up the fuel cell actual install. I've got to run a vent hose and, like I said, a ground wire for the sending unit. But then the fuel cell will be done. Then we got to tackle, next we're going to tackle this fuel pump. I'm going to take it off there and see if I can figure out why it's leaking. See what's going on with that. Right now, I don't know. So that's going to be the next thing I dig into. I dig into that fuel pump. Just so everyone understands where I'm at with this, I do plan on replacing that trunk pan. I know somebody's going to say, no, you shouldn't have done it that way. Listen, I do plan on replacing that trunk pan. I've looked into having another one on the way. It's not going to be here till after 6 Smokies is over with and I'm back home anyway. So right now, I chose, originally I was thinking maybe we'll just throw some patches in and then do it. I feel like I'd be doing the work twice if I patched it and then cut everything out and put a pan in. So I'm just going to throw that carpet over it, not even worry about the rust holes, just ignore the rust holes that's in the trunk. 1 more week is not going to matter. You know what I'm saying? Another 2 weeks, actually, what it ended up being, won't matter. And then we'll come back and we'll cut that entire trunk pan out and just put a new trunk pan in it. Not ideal, but that's the way I'm going to do it. A couple of other things I need to address. I got to put a piece of sheet metal between where the back seat used to be and the trunk area. That has to be done to pass tech. I have to do that. It should have been done anyway. I mean, I understand that. What I'm going to do for that is the carpet in the back of this is glued in the package tray area, and then it's just rolled down right there. So I'm just going to roll that carpet up, get me some sheet metal. Aluminum would be better, but I don't have access to a sheet of aluminum. So I'm going to put a sheet of sheet metal in there and then just roll that carpet back down. That'll be, a 10-minute job, because I'll just buy a sheet that size and just put it up there, be done with it. That's a non-issue. I've got most of the wiring cleaned up now. There's a couple of things that I still have to address with wiring. You can see, of course, I've got tools and stuff thrown on the floor right now, so they got to be cleaned up. You can see I still have 4 or 5 wires laying right here. Those wires, I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do with them. And then I got to clean all this stuff up. I've got all the wires tucked back under the dash. Most of that's ready and has been taken care of now. Now, what I mean by that is those wires are wires that generally I don't really have a use for in this car. One of them's a third brake light, one of them's for the AC. I forget what the other one's for, but I'll have to look. But there are things that this car doesn't really have, but there are wires that have power to them. So one of them may turn into like auxiliary port for phone charging, USB port, something along those lines. So I'm trying to carefully think about that before I just snip them and tuck them away and forget about them and say I don't need those wires. I've got a couple of days to think about stuff like that. So most of that's done. Got to the tunnel, the side of the tunnel on this car has been made removable. It's just laid in there right now. I got to put that back in and put the bolts back in place for that. It's made removable like that, so I can adjust my linkage rods. Race car stuff, right? One of those wires may turn into a dome light. I don't think it would be a problem with tech. I'm not talking about drilling a hole or anything, but maybe find one of those aftermarket dome light deals and just take like 2 hose clamps and wrap around the sides of it, hose clamp it to the center of the roll bar in there, put a couple of zip ties or a piece of tape along the wire, run it over and down the roll bar right here, and then I'll have a dome light inside the car. That may come in handy for if I get in a situation where I'm in the dark and need to read directions or something. I don't know. It might be nice to have a dome light, is what I'm saying. So there's a couple things there that need done, but then mostly the inside's buttoned up. There is a couple of issues that I have to take care of that I'm kind of stuck right now. When I say I'm stuck right now, what I mean is I've got to do something about the rear gear. I've got the rear main seal has developed a drip on this. I will not be the guy that puts oil on the track. I'll never be that guy that knows that it can happen or knows that there is an issue and goes out anyway and risks putting oil on the track. I will never intentionally put somebody else at risk. I will do sketchy stuff on my car, and I will sometimes put myself in a sketchy situation. But that's knowing that it's not going to affect anybody but me. I'm not going to do something that might affect somebody else. And one of those things is drip oil on the track. So I do have a new rear seal on the way. It's in my parts order that's coming. So we are going to stick a new rear seal on this engine. That will probably come first of the week. What I'm focusing on next will be trying to swap out the rear gear and finding a leak in the fuel pump, because I want to run it up and down the road to make sure that the cooling system can keep up, that this thing can handle putting around. It's never been a putt around kind of car. This car has lived its life, at least since I've owned it, it's lived its life to the floorboard. It's the only time this car is not wide open is when it's driving from the pits to the staging lanes, or when I drive it across the yard into the shop. Other than that, this car is to the floor every time it starts up. So I've never even tried to make the car happy at low RPM. I need to drive it around the block a time or two. I need to drive it up and down the road a time or two. I need to see how everything's going to work together. I need to make sure it can stay cool. All these things are things that I need to do. I also got to put my front turn signals in these fiberglass bumpers. They have not been cut yet for the turn signals to go into, but I got to put them in there because they will check those at Drive and Drag. Techs do check to make sure your front and rear turn signals work. I think, in your driving handbook, it teaches you how to use hand signals. So personally, I don't think turn signals are that important. Just use your hand signals, but they do make you have them working. So we are going to have them working. We are pretty much at a point where I can't do much until my parts come in. So now it's going to be busy work. Like going through this fuel pump and maybe throwing a rebuild kit in it and seeing if it was just a leaky gasket or something causing a leak. Like cleaning the inside up, tucking those wires up, putting a zip tie or two in so everything's tucked up, like putting front turn signals in. You know, we're going to be doing busy work, stuff that in the big picture doesn't really matter, twiddling our thumbs waiting on parts to get here. Now, the only thing that I'm going to be able to do that does matter is putting that fire brake, firewall, whatever you want to call it, in behind that, between the trunk and the passenger compartment. We'll be able to do that. It's coming down to the nitty gritty, and it's going to really come down to if our parts get here in time. I made a mistake when I ordered the parts. This is not on Summit. I do not know how this happened. It is on me. I'm still trying to understand how it happened. I have my default store set on the McDougall, Georgia Summit. So when I order anything, it comes straight from McDougall. This closest one, I usually have it the next day. Worst case, 2 days. Somehow, some way, when I order these parts, they're coming from the Sparks, Nevada. And they're not going to be here. None of these parts I ordered are going to be here till Monday. I need to be leaving Thursday or Friday. Probably Friday. I need to be leaving. I'll check the dates. I think Smokies Tech is on Sunday. I'll have to check. You know what? I don't know. So don't quote me on that. But I'm thinking I have to be out of here on Friday. So that doesn't give me a whole lot of time, including the parts to fix this rear seal. So we are definitely going to be cutting it close. That's why I'm going to go ahead, put a tag and everything on this car. And in the next video, you're going to see us. We're going to be driving around. We're going to drive around some and see what keeps up, what needs work, what don't work. I've got to get mufflers too. I keep forgetting to put mufflers on my list. I may have a couple of El Cheapo mufflers here because all I'm going to do is put 18 inches of pipe, a muffler, and probably turn downs or something, and just bolt them straight to the headers. And I'll probably put one hanger right at the very back wherever the turn down comes to, put one hanger there, and that's just going to be just enough so that I can call it a muffler, an exhaust, and be street legal. And once I get to the track, the first thing I'm doing is unbolting the exhaust from the headers and tossing that outside anyway. So I'm just doing what is required to make it street legal. We have a long way to go and a short time to get there. But it's what it is, right? This is nobody's fault but mine because I lost track of time. Now, honestly and truly. Had a conversation today with a guy, and the whole gist of it was I still plan on this car being at 6 Smokies. I still plan on it being there, running, and us doing the week with it. If for some unfortunate reason, and I don't plan on this, but if some unfortunate reason happened and we don't make it, we still have Street Meet in November. And when we're done getting this car ready for 6 Smokies, we should not have to touch it again. It should be able to just go from there to doing Street Meet without anything being touched. Fingers crossed. So I don't see any reason we can't make it. Like I said, right now, we're waiting on parts. In our parts is new belts that are up to date. We got our battery shut-off switch coming because this car's never had one on the back. Again, we've never really had to fool with tech before. Battery shut-off switch is coming. What else is coming? We got the parts to fix our rear seal coming. There's something else we got coming that I can't remember what it is right off the top of my head, but we've got parts coming to do all this stuff with. We're just kind of waiting now. I probably should have just driven down to Summit and got the parts, but in my mind, I'm like, no reason to lose an entire day because By the time I'm drive down there, walk around the store, do everything, come back home, it would be 5-6 hours. So there's no reason to lose pretty much an entire day. Drive down there, we'll just have it shipped. That was my fault. I got to put tires on this car too because it's still running skinnies on the front and Hoosier slicks on the back. So we got to put tires on it that are street legal. Yeah, we got a list of stuff to do. We're chipping away at it though. It sounds like a lot, and I'm not going to say it's not a lot of stuff, but it's all manageable. It's all stuff to do. Again, just kind of waiting on stuff at this point and doing what I can do while I wait on stuff. Go through and nut and bolt check everything also while we're waiting. We're obviously going to do an oil change because we're going to change that rear seal. So we're going to drain the oil anyway, so we're going to do an oil change. We're going to change fluid in the rear end because we're going to change the rear gear. Rear gear is something I'm still looking into. Someone told me they had a 411 they were supposed to be getting to me. I haven't seen it yet. I've got a 456 on the shelf. I really don't want to put a 456 in it. It's got 588s now. I know the 588s will never live 1,000 miles. The car just wouldn't live 1,000 miles with 588s in it. Worst case, something doesn't show up. We'll put I think it's 325s. We'll put the center chunk out of the wagon in this thing if we have to. I mean, I don't want to go that low. I know a lot of people say that I shouldn't run 411s on the street, but I'm not trying to run 70 miles an hour down the highway. If my understanding is correct, the majority of this stuff is going to be 2-lane roads, so I figure as long as I can run 45 miles an hour, I'm fine. I mean, even if the speed limit is 50 or 55, I don't have to run the speed limit. So I figure as long as I can run 45, 50 at the most, and not be screaming, I'm fine. So I think 411s would be fine in it. If I keep it 45 or so, I don't know what the math works out to, but if I put a tall enough tire on the back of it, I can probably run 45 at 2,000, 2,500 RPMs, maybe, with a tall enough tire. I don't know. I got to sit down and do the math. I haven't done any math, so don't hold any of that to me. So I don't know. That's something I'm going to do right now, actually. I think I'm just going to sit down and do the math and say, okay, I don't want to turn above this RPM. What gear would be on this edge of it? And no, I need to go somewhere in here and not go above this. I need to sit down and do that math right now. See what that comes out to be. I hope you guys stick with us through the journey here. We're doing everything we can to make 6 Smokies. It is going to be a challenge for us because honestly, with everything going on right now, I honestly should back out of it because I can't afford to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to take a tent. I'm going to camp at the tracks. I got a little Coleman camp stove I'm going to throw in here, and I'm going to throw me a crate full of pinto beans or something, SpaghettiOs, something in there that I can cook on my little Coleman stove at the track. And I think most of these tracks have showers, so I'll be okay as long as it doesn't rain on us. So I think we'll be okay there. Our real expense is going to be fuel. I'm hoping that 468, I believe is what the math says, 468 cubic inch FE with 2 750 double pumpers on it. I mean, that should get good gas mileage, right? Especially with 411 gears and a 4-speed. I mean, we should be just sipping on it. You know what I'm saying? Who thought that was a good idea? Well, this is a video of us getting started. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of parts, so we can't get all the way through everything in this video. You will see that in the next video, because the next video comes out will be when all the parts get here. So we'll be going through it. But I will also probably start the next video with us driving this car around, because we need to run this car up and down the road, and we need to know. I mean, I don't know what it's going to do, and I'm not even going to try to sit here and tell somebody, oh, it'll be fine on the street, you know, it does this, it'll do this. I'm not going to tell you that, because I've never driven it on the street more than 100 yards or so. I mean, we've taken it to some shows and stuff where we had to park like across the road. We'd unload it and drive it across the road and through a field or something, or something along those lines. But we've never driven it on the street enough for the motor to even get warm. So I need to drive it around and make sure of our cooling system. I am going to go ahead and say I am going to have to change part of my cooling system, because I do have a Moroso drive on the water pump. If you have not seen those, that's something a lot of people used. I don't want to say before electric pumps, because there's probably electric pumps out and somebody will correct me on it. I'm going to say it was the most common way of doing things back in the day of having an electric water pump. This is what I'm talking about here. It's an electric motor. It has a little tooth belt and goes around your standard water pump. This is an aluminum water pump, but it goes around your standard water pump so that when you turn the switch on, this runs all the time. So as soon as you turn the switch on, the water pump's running, circulating water, and the fan runs at that same time also. That way I can pull up in the pits after a pass, turn the switch on, and the cooling system sitting here running the entire time, cooling the car down. Now, I don't know that this right here will work on the street, but I'm going to drive it around and find out. There's people right now probably screaming at their phone saying, oh, that'll never work. What I will say about this setup right here, the way this is set up and the way this motor works and all, I will say this. Running with the Southeast gassers, I've done that for 6 years. Your car barely gets a break. They work you, boys, what I'm saying. I mean, you go through, and depending on the car count, you barely get time to get out, eat a chicken leg, and swallow a little bit of drink, and they're like, all right, time to go. It's time to get in the stage lane. It's time to go. There is no downtime, or it didn't used to be any downtime in those races. It was boom, 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 boom. So I can tell you that this thing never got above 190 degrees, even on the hottest day running with Southeast gassers. It never got above 190 degrees. Did it run 1,000 miles in one lick? No. It would run from the pits down to the staging lanes, and I'd let my car sit there and run sometimes in the staging lane, sit there and idle. Pull up, do a burnout. We'd run the 8th mile. We'd come back around to the pits, and then I would cut the ignition off, and I'd leave this running. By the time I could run, take a piss, get a swallow a drink, and come back, it was time for us to go down the staging lanes again. I'd fire it up and go again. This car never got above 190 degrees. That is a big difference, and I understand that, from constant running on the drive and on the road. That is something we need to see. I'm not trying to in any way say that I'm going to run this setup on the street. This thing has a crank pulley on it and has an alternator on it. It has a belt that goes from the alternator to the crank pulley. I plan on putting a water pump pulley on it and finding a longer belt and go around all three. But I want to know if this will work. I appreciate everybody that watches, subscribes, comments, shares, and do all that stuff. You guys really help make these things possible. You know how it works. We get a few pennies every time somebody watches a video, and you guys watching helps us be able to do this stuff. This is going to be something that's going to put me in a bind for a little while, because, again, threw a bunch of parts on a credit card to try to get them here in time, and we're going to see what happens. It's just going to be a lot of fun to take this car and get back to the street with this car. Going to have a lot of fun doing that. I appreciate everyone that watches. Thank you so much for that. On the next one, as I said, on the next one, you will see this car driving down the road. 100% guaranteed we're driving this car down the road on the next one. Probably more than once. We're going to drive it down the road as it sits right now. I actually want to know what happens with 588 gears. Can I only run 30 miles an hour? What? I don't know. I don't know. Let's find out. Now, we're not going to try to drive it, an hour down the road. I'm going to run it around the block. You know what I'm saying? We're going to drive it just like it is. We're going to see how this engine likes lugging around. I got a feeling it's not going to like being lugged around very much. We're going to see what it's like to row these gears at normal human RPMs and not banging it no lift at 7,000. That'll be different for me in this car. I don't think I've ever shifted this car like a normal person. It's always been $7,000, never lift, bang the next gear. So let's see what that's like. All that happens on the next one. And a drive around the block, letting everything heat up and get warm and running is going to tell you way more about this car than what anything on paper can tell you. We may have a lot more work to do than what we even know we have to do. So we need to get to that. Guys, I hope the Lord blesses you more today than it did yesterday. Him be the glory. Guys, I got to get back to work, but I'll see you on the next one. I would show more in this video. The video's getting pretty long, so I don't like putting out long videos. So I'm going to go ahead and end this. We did get the fuel cell situation took care of. We got some wiring took care of. Can't thank Evil Energy enough for supplying, or I should say, getting out a fuel cell as quickly as they did. They ended up being so on it that I got the fuel cell before I got anything else. So can't thank them enough for their great customer service and their great product. So I will put a link to them in the comment or in the description. So if you're interested in a fuel cell from them, you can do that. You can get one. Actually, come to think of it, they gave us a code. You can use code Frizzell, Frizzell. I will put that in the description as well. You can use code Frizzell at Evil Energy and get you a little discount, I think. I think they got it set up there to help give back to some of the folks that watch our channel. So, a thank you to them. Guys, I got to get back to work. We'll see you on the next one.
I'd say he's a nut job.